Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jane Dorio.
On your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our first guest this morning is the marvelous Arif Halaby of Total Financial Solutions.
Well, hi guys, how are you?
I'm
Good
fine.
morning,
How are
Arif.
you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. It is an amazing start to the new year. Our water needs, if you will, are being met. The rain is here. We like that.
Great.
It's not a problem when it rains at night. I think it's better if it rains at night and then during the day, we can
Minimize our traffic
yeah,
problems.
drive okay, no problems, no issues.
But the reservoirs are filling, but it's the snowpack that determines how well we're going to do toward the middle and end of the year. So I'm good with all of this occurring. But we have standards and we know what we have to meet in order to get there. And let's hope that it keeps raining and snowing.
Yeah,
especially up north.
It is interesting. We have the groundwater is being recharged, which is as it comes down the riverbeds. We are now filling up slowly, but filling up the groundwater, which is a very important part. It's a big part of our percentage here. We're a little bit different than the rest of the state. I happen to know this because I'm one of the citizens on the water board of my many hats that I wear. So it's a good thing that we're filling that up and making a difference.
But the analogy, Arif, is there with our seniors as well, because in order for them to have a reservoir, a financial reservoir, they have to be able to look ahead and predict some of the things that might occur in the future. And that's not an easy task, is it?
It is not, and I think a lot of us need to remember two things that are very important. Number one is the pension that you thought you had may have to change. We're going to jump into something here if I can, but CalPERS, California Public Employee Retirement System, for the first time a few weeks ago, had to reduce a pensioner's paycheck 60%.
Why?
60.
Why?
All pensioners?
Just this particular lady, because this was a story, because it was this particular town, this little city. Here's why.
She won the lotto.
No, they didn't have the money. And so her paycheck, she was 70, I believe it's 71 or so years old. She went down 60%, from over $4,000 a month down to $1,900 a month. So here's what happened. In the world of a pension, I'm going to explain it so I think you kind of grasp it a little bit. In the world of a pension, the way it works is every entity, city, county, state, agency, whatever, will coordinate with the CalPERS and say, we have our people that are this age, and when they work this many years, we want them at this age to get this percentage of their pension. Right? It's kind of a rough formula. And because each city can be a little different, they say, well, if that's the case, what we'd like to do is you're going to have to put $1.22 for every hour that employee works. Okay.
Into CalPERS.
Into CalPERS for their future pension. Oh, did you want medical as well? That's 84 cents, right? So they put together a formula. Some cities might say, oh, we're going to do even better than that, and simply because their goal is to have better benefits, great, so the number might be a little higher. Well, if there isn't enough money in the CalPERS system, then what happens is they go to the agency and they say, for what you guys are paying out, we didn't earn the rate of return that we thought we were going to earn.
You haven't put enough in.
So you need to put more money in. It's called being underfunded. So there are billions of dollars underfunded. And that is
How does that happen, though, Arif? How does that happen to our citizens who have worked so hard, and feel that they've donated, and put an effort into savings and their pension, to find out later down the line that it's going to be decreased by 60%?
Yeah, here's what basically took place. The assumption going forward, they say, we have a bucket of dollars that are kind of assigned to you. I mean, it's mixed and matched with the rest of everybody else. But you do have, let's just say for the sake of argument, $1 million for that city. And next year we're expecting to pay out $80,000. Okay, so we're going to earn some interest, so that's good. But oh wait, we only earned $20,000 in interest. So the $1 million is now gone backwards. And there isn't enough money to pay because they were overestimating the rates of return they were expecting to earn. So what they've done is
Who
they
makes those decisions?
You know, it's
though?
it's politicians, it's political appointees. It's incredible. And they make up a number like 7.5% or 8.5% or 9.5%, whatever their number is. And they make up that number, and that is supposed to backfill plus the contributions, plus the new hires, putting money in. So what is happening now with different cities and counties is they are subject to putting more money in and or going back to the existing employees and saying, listen, you're 37 years old, you're going to retire in 25 years, we understand that. But we did say that you had to put in 8% of your paycheck into this bucket, your personal contribution, and then the city or the county matches other monies. Now you're going to have to put in 9 or 10. And I think the only way these pensions are going to exist in the future is if they go to the existing workers and explain to them they're going to have to put in 11 or 12%, whatever the number is. I'm going to give you just an example, but a lot more than they're currently putting in. They're going to have to say you cannot retire at 55 years old or 60. It has to be 62 or 63 or 4. And you're going to get the average of the number over 5 years, not 3 years. So they're going to kind of reduce or adjust, make it longer, and have you put in more. So here's where I see the rub, and it could be significant. I think you're going to have a lot of employees not so happy about having to pay a lot more from their paycheck at 34, 38, 39, 40 years old, knowing that it's going to be decades before they get it. And yet they see a wonderful, beautiful 75-year-old retiree in Tahiti, vacationing here, living a life like this, and everybody's wonderful, everything's great, except they're going, wait a second, I have to work overtime just to make the same amount of money so that you can travel the world and be retired for 15 or 20 years? I think you're going to see a pushback there. It's the old, you heard it here first. I think the workers are going to be, it's going to now be the workers against the retirees. Maybe not, but I think there's going to be some problems.
But you have to have trust in CalPERS, and we've seen some problems with it over the years.
Yeah.
So what is it that's taking place now by the politicians, by their appointees, by the people out there that play a role in making decisions? What is it that they're doing now in terms of CalPERS and helping those adjustments take place?
I believe that what will take place over time is there's going to have to be they used to call it a come to Jesus meeting, which is let's get down to the facts, where they would sit down and say, hey guys, we just can't do this anymore. The pensions are wonderful, the employment, the paycheck. See, it used to be that you made a lot less money because you worked for the city, county, state. But you gave up being laid off every 3 years when aerospace was going through a problem or the economy had a downturn. And so instead of being laid off every few years, we're going to give you pretty good health insurance, and we'll pay for that, by the way, and we'll give you a pension after 25 years. So people would weigh it and they go, well, I know that I'm not going to make as much, but I certainly do have a job I'm never going to worry about being laid off.
Well, Russ is with CalPERS.
Yes, he is.
And he's been retired 22 years.
I don't think you'll ever see an issue with folks that are
already retired.
65, 70 years old.
That's where the rub is, the dichotomy. That's our problem.
Yeah, and I actually believe you'll get to the place eventually where they're going to have to change Social Security. And it might be, hey, if you're 50 years and younger, 50 to 42 or 40 years old, you're going to have to be making these changes. And if you're younger the age of 40, you're going to have to do these changes just so Social Security can survive. And I think they will make something like that. This is certainly conjecture, but it's simply a math problem. You have to get to the place where math is where we believe 1 + 1 is 2, whether you're on the left or right or a union member or not. I just believe a lot of people need to come to the realization that things are a little different.
How about this idea that I've thrown out, maybe even with you, Arif, and talking about Social Security? When you're 62, when you're 65, when you're 70 and a half, you can start collecting your Social Security. But let's say you get to 70 and a half and you say, I don't need my Social Security. Let's say you get to 80 and I don't need it. And now let's say you get to 85 and you go, okay, now I need it. Why not have a system when you're 70 and a half and you don't want to take your Social Security, just continue paying into Social Security, don't take it, and when you hit 85 or whatever age you want to get to, then you take out some of what you put in a calculated way.
Yes.
Therefore, we will be supplementing. I will, for instance, myself, let's say, I want to work till 85. At 86, I retire. And, there's a calculated amount that I will get because I kept paying in, but I didn't take any Social Security. We're being forced at 70 and a half at the latest to put money in. Why not increase the pot that way? That will save Social Security. And, hey, listen, if I retire at 86 and die at 87, government's made money, haven't they?
Right. Yeah,
so
they've come ahead. I think you're.
Is that a tough idea or a bad idea or a feasible idea, or is it just beyond the politicians and the appointees to come to that reality?
I believe that they are not following the best interest of all the people. They are instead following the politicians, especially in Sacramento, are following the best interests of a few people. Mm-hmm. In this case, because we're a one-party state, frankly, we're the only state that didn't lose an incumbent last year, in the last couple of elections, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So we are all, and they've gerrymandered, which means they've cut out the districts so that you have pretty much guaranteed Democrat rule, if not 100% of the districts that they gerrymandered. As a Democrat, they're going to keep in the high 90s every single year. So once you do that, you're no longer accountable to negotiate or to listen to reason from the other side. I don't care if you're a far right, area in the South or in the central part of the United States, you probably have a similar system, which is it's a one-party rule and there's no pushback. So we in the state of California are consistently spending money. In fact, they went and punished every single business owner last year, and we expect it again this year because we defaulted on the loan with the federal government again. They went and punished every single business owner a fee per employee. Mm-hmm. So why do you think that last year Toyota moved its headquarters out of Torrance? Why do you think there are 9,000 businesses that have left California in the last 10 years? Because we're such a low tax, low regulatory, happy, friendly state to work? Right? It's not
or because government is out of balance. There's no negotiations. There's no even compromise in this. One side steps over the other side to get their way. I pretty much sit in the middle.
Yes.
But I think in order to get there, there are some people on one side and the other that have to come to the table. When they don't come to the table, then you're going to get that one-sided problems and create problems at the same time.
You're right. I think you get a sort of folks that lay out a plan that says to themselves, this small group of people are going to be happy and continue to pay for my reelection, for my system. We thought that term limits was the way to go. We thought that term limits does one thing. I'm not saying they're good or bad, just understand that they do at least one of these things. It empowers the second-tier staffers, the career chief of staffs, the career folks that say, look, I knew somebody in Sacramento at one point, and he said the two leaders of the parties go back when they had to negotiate, and right now there is a very little negotiations done. And they came to each other and they said, okay, we're going to do this, and you'll give up that, and we'll give up this, and they came together with a plan. They went to their second-tier staffers and said, draw this up accordingly, and they both said, we're not going to do that. We're done working in this town if we are part of that particular compromise. And they said, but you don't understand, I'm the member. And they said, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have to work here long after your term limits are expired. So term limits have a consequences, maybe unintended, of course, but it empowers the second-tier career bureaucrats that aren't going to go anywhere because they just check their watch. They know you're done in the next year or 2 or 3 terms, and it's over.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is. I think people forget that they have to be held accountable. And if we had a system that exposes to the light the legislative activities and the votes and the positions that our politicians take, I think their own mothers would be ashamed. And I think that alone would give them some pushback. When we say that I won't get too much into it, but girls can use boys' bathrooms because today they feel like a girl. How many junior high boys do you think said, "Oh, you know what? Today I feel like a girl. I'm going to go to the locker room." Really?
But transparency needs to be there. Accountability needs to be there. We don't have a whole lot of that right now in government, and that's the sad part. And it's the structure of how everything is set up right now, and we need to bring that back somehow, some way, and come up with some good ideas to be able to do that. But what about our seniors who are listening? They have pensions, they're not with CalPERS, but they're and some of the early baby boomers, they're realizing, I don't have enough money saved. What do we do for them? What kind of suggestions do you have to offer to them?
Yeah, one of the things we've always pushed for is for you to have your own layer of retirement that's in addition to whatever pension. You may have a wonderful company pension, maybe your portion of the CalPERS and your employer, which is the city or county or state, is never going to have a problem. That's all great. But I never want you to be counting on just one source of income in retirement. I like to see 3, 4, 5 sources of income. Maybe you have a retirement account. Maybe you have an investment property or a reverse mortgage, or maybe you have your own savings. Those all are very important components. Whether it's real estate or your own retirement accounts or your pension, those dollars are not necessarily coordinated, meaning if, oh my gosh, there's a problem in the real estate market, well, that doesn't really matter because your retirement accounts over here are safe. Oh my gosh, the pension is not going to give us a pay raise for 3 years in a row and inflation is going up. That's okay, you have money over here. So, right, you can adjust and adapt, and that's pretty important.
Well, California, if it isn't already, is very close to being a welfare state.
Yeah, it isn't the poor people that leave. You guys, I get that we have a weather tax, but do you understand the rich people that take their jobs, whatever you want to call rich, right? They can keep a vacation home here. And your residence can be floored. Where do you think most of these movie stars, these self-righteous, condemning movie stars, when they go on these different award shows, where do you think they live? Where do you think their residence is? They may have a home
Florida.
in Bel Air. That's right. Florida and Nevada. They may have a home in Bel Air, Brentwood, but it isn't their residence.
No.
They may spend 10 months out of the year there, but it's not their residence. Their residence is a state in which they do not pay income tax. So the ability for them to spend your money when you're working very hard and you're here because your grandchildren are here is a very unique position. It should be exposed. There should be, hey, listen, these movie stars, they have offshore corporations. They have corporations registered in other states. Their income in the state of California is minimal because they're, right? Get into that detail. If they want to tear apart the rest of it, then then they should as well. What you should do is take care of your own accounts. Count on the government for a portion, but I think the shift of a welfare state, which meaning you're just kind of counting on the government for everything, is going to shift over the next 4 years. Good or bad, we will see. The Republicans ask for the mantle, and they have all 3 houses of all 3 layers. They'll have the Supreme Court and everything. Well, then it's yours, guys. You bought it. So
that's right. Let's see what they do.
That's right. Good, bad, and ugly.
That's exactly right. And one of the worst things, I think, in California is all the homeless, all the people on welfare, all the people on food stamps. Something needs to be done there. I don't know what, but something needs to be done.
Do you not see that most of America can make a living? I mean, do you realize that if you're poor in America, you have carpet, you have air conditioning or heat.
That's right.
If you're poor in America, drive down the street, you have a cell phone.
You have a cell phone. Oh, yes.
My goodness. Look at all the streets, the folks out here on Main Street in Santa Clarita, in what is that, San Fernando Road or Railroad Avenue.
Railroad.
You will see that, quote, the poor have jackets. They eat. Maybe not every 6 meals a day with snacks and filet mignon. But so, in other words, we have a service. We have services to take care of people if they choose to use them.
That's right.
Yes, I understand some of them are sleeping behind churches and they're sleeping in the wash, and I get that. But often, I don't know if that's a choice or if that's circumstance, but I think
it's a
eventually,
mix.
Yeah, I think people
it's a
make
mix.
choices that lead to that as a circumstance.
But you know,
That's
in our state and our country, we have to also provide opportunity and allow people to be upward bound, so they're moving ahead through education and, you know, in every different respect, getting that opportunity to allow them to have a career, to pay their taxes, pay into Social Security, all these things, and not be worried about retirement. But this is the crux of what is going on now, and we need to break that and figure out what we're going to do about it.
I agree.
But when there's no balance in Sacramento, it's not going to happen.
No,
And when there's no balance in Washington, D.C., it's not going to happen. So if we're not going to fix things financially or economically here today, but is there anything, Arif, that we can do that might make some sense to our listeners that
yes.
could not allow them to be so anxious?
It will be two things. One is, I think the economy is reasonably sure-footed. I think we have a change. If we went through another 4 years of legislating by dictate by one person, if you will, a king or a dictator could write up a decree, right? It used to be that way in the old world, in England and France and the kingdom days, and it was starting to be like that, where the president would sign something and poof, he just took over 1 million acres up in the Utah and Nevada literally a week ago. Are you kidding me? What about the states' rights? So if you're a senior and you start to have property or real estate or investments or retirement accounts or annuities or insurance, you've got to should have been cautiously concerned that another swipe of a pen would in fact change the future of some of your accounts. That was the case. It was reasonably expected to be concerned. Today, I think you have a bit more of a legislative rule, and the Republicans don't have a supermajority. So they're going to have to fight to get some Democrats on board, depending on what their legislative agenda is. So I like that. I like that they have to push back a little bit. If I was king for the day or a week, I could fix everything. But
Or Barbara, you were queen.
yeah,
Yes, there
I'll
you
take
go.
Barbara as my queen. That's fine.
Make a great couple.
I think we would. We would
Yay, move forward.
Shake the
Now's your opportunity.
So just keep an eye. I think diversification. Don't put everything in one place, the market, or in any one place for that matter. And kind of spread it out a little bit. Keep yourself liquidity. I'd like you to see and have some money at home. 6 months at least worth of your expenses would be a good place to start. Not expenses if you say, I'm going to eat out and travel. That's fine. You can back those numbers off a little bit if it's food, shelter, clothing. That's what I'd like to see, at least 6 months of insurance, those kinds of things.
Great, Arif. Good conversation, leading to the future. It's the opening of the year, and pretty soon we'll be at the close of the year, and we'll be able to look back and say, this is what we talked about and this is what has happened. And I just hope that what happens is optimistic, uplifting, and moving forward. And I think it will be.
I do.
That's the way I look at it.
I think if we trust the government to do what the government's job is and nothing more, and then transfer our responsibility back to us, I think we're being in a better place. And remember, look, you're probably not going to see Social Security pay increases anytime soon.
No.
If you do, it's a 1% or 2%, not a whole lot.
How about
Mine went
0.1?
down. Mine went down
0.1%.
$200.
Did it really?
$200 a month.
So, Arif, great talking with you today. Arif Halaby from Total Financial Solutions. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, phone number they can reach you at.
Yeah, folks, get a hold of us at 753-9683. And that's a 661 area code. 753-9683. Thanks for having us. A little bit of a twist, if you will, to today, but I appreciate you letting me be here today.
Great. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a break right now on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.